All right, this is just a little trigger to say we're talking about depression today, and it gets a little heavy, and proceed with caution. Now
Yeah.
to the episode. Hello, welcome back to the 30 something podcast. My name is Tanya.
Hello. Oh, sorry. Do you want to
My
say your
name is
name
Tanya.
again? My name is Sasha.
I realized that we had forgotten to introduce ourselves in the last few episodes, but this is who we are, in case you need to recognize our voices.
And we are acquaintances.
Yeah, we've known each other for a couple of years. We're sisters, for those of you who don't know. How are you, Sa?
I'm okay. Pretty sleepy, I think, because it's so hot.
Hot in London town.
Yeah, very hot. It's been 28, 31 degrees all week. Way too hot for
Oh, yeah.
London. That wouldn't be too bad in some other countries, but here it's like, especially if you have to take the tube,
Oh, yeah.
which I don't, thankfully.
In the winter, it's even too hot in there. Anyone who's been to London knows.
How are you?
Well, that's nice. I'm also a bit tired, but only because it's a little early. I'm not really a morning person. You see, my prefrontal cortex needs a few hours to activate,
Is that a thing?
usually. Well, shall we get into this? I've been reading a
Okay.
book. Well, I started reading a book a few years ago and I haven't continued, but I should get back to it. The problem with reading that book is every time I read it, I kept falling asleep because it's a book about sleep. Um, and and I learned some very validating things in that book. The book is called Why We Sleep. I don't remember who it's by. But one of the things I learned was how you have like night owls and morning birds. Is that what they're called? Morning birds? No. Early birds. Well,
Yeah.
anyway, you've got morning people and night people.
Hold
And
on. Why, just on that, why are they just general birds and then the night ones are owls? Why don't they
yeah, it's
have a
true.
specific bird like morning pigeon and
Are
night
pigeons
owl?
chirping away in the morning?
I don't know.
Are
Are
they like a
they?
morning robin? I don't know my birds
Lark?
well enough for this. Yeah. Well, so basically, you're evolved to be one or the other, or somewhere in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
because back in the day when we lived in tribal communities, you'd always need to have somebody on lookout protecting the tribe. So somebody would have to be awake, and they would sort of take shifts throughout the 24-hour period. And some people were just the night watch people. I said that in a very British way, didn't I? The night
Isn't
watch
this just a
people.
theory?
Um, I don't know whether it's a theory or not, but in the book, he
Okay.
was talking about it as if it was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, it gets passed down in your genes, and it's just the way you are. So, like, I think I'm a night owl, probably. My natural sleeping pattern is more like 1:30 a.m. to 11ish. I need to sleep a lot, guys. Apparently, women do as well. But no matter, even if you like set your clock, so to speak, to wake up earlier because of capitalism and whatnot, your prefrontal cortex in a way still operates on your natural circadian rhythm that you're evolved to have. And it can take a few, I might get this wrong, but I remember something about like your prefrontal cortex is at its most optimal about 5 hours after your natural waking up time.
Okay.
So if
That
my
seems
natural
late.
wake up time is like 11, at 4 is when my prefrontal cortex is actually at its peak. I don't know why that is the case, like why it's got to ramp up and go down. I suppose there's some reason. But
What does the
anyway,
prefrontal cortex do again?
it's like your center for control, controlling, and I guess in some ways like analysis and inhibition, like inhibiting
Okay.
behaviors that you
So a lot
don't
of
want to
like our
display.
most conscious thought.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
I feel like 4 p.m. is not a good time for me.
Well, it might be because you're actually waking up not at your natural time. So it's messing your natural circadian rhythm.
I don't know.
I don't know either. But that's a little tidbit for you, people. Anywho, what's our topic for today, Sa?
Oh, we're going to talk about the most joyous of things, depression.
Depression.
Otherwise known as depression. I imagine it, you know how people like write things on the internet with like those star emojis around the word?
Yeah. Depression.
Yeah, I was imagining it.
Yeah. Depression.
Depression. You chose the topic, so why did you choose this topic?
Well, actually in my mind I was like, we should talk about anxiety and depression, because we've joked before how like you and I are one and the other. One, you're depression, I'm anxiety. And we make a perfect little pair. Well, depression, I mean, it's affected your life. It's affected my life, being someone close to you and also knowing other people with depression. And I think to an extent, depression itself affecting me, but I'll talk about that more later. And it's just one of those things that affects so many people. And I think growing up, you don't learn very much about it. Well, at least we didn't. I hope these days that isn't the case anymore with young people. And I reckon people out there will resonate for sure. And I guess we'll impart whatever things that we've learned, or just share our experiences so people feel a bit less alone and all that stuff. So that's why.
Yeah, I think even if you haven't experienced depression or even any other mental illness, it's still, for me, depression is really interesting. I mean, obviously, I've gone through it, so maybe I'm biased, but I still find it like something that's really interesting to understand about the mind and how people are. And you probably know someone who has had it, even if they don't talk about it. So
Sure.
it's still something that's worth talking about, worth listening to. So stick around.
And are you equipped to know what to do with your loved ones who are depressed? I think a lot of people aren't. We're guessing. We're doing our best. But I'm not sure I know the answer still. But
Okay, I was going to ask, do you have advice on that you're going to share?
well, let's see what I can dredge up in the depths of my mind.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, do you want to kick off, Sa, a little bit with like, I don't know, whatever you wanted to kick off with?
Well, I've had depression on and off, like mostly from the age of 18 to 26. I had it the most. And I would say I had episodes. Some of them were long, some of them are short. But maybe I'll just start with the first time. So I went to uni and I was far away from home and far away from Tanya, you, not you listeners,
Me.
you, Tanya. And I felt a lot of culture shock being there. I felt very alone being there.
In Aberdeen, Scotland,
Yes,
the northern
yes,
part of Scotland, practically the Arctic Circle.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the weather, not the weather, the darkness definitely didn't help. But I think like for me the biggest trigger of my first depressive episode at that time was the homesickness and the loneliness. And my sleep schedule got all out of whack talking about sleep. So I was awake during the dark hours most of the time, not being able to sleep. And I had these revelations, as you do when you're like experiencing something big for the first time. One of the biggest was that, and I know that I've told you this before and you don't really agree with me, but I was like, wow, we are alone in life. And now in my 30s, I'm like, yeah, and that's fine. I've gotten used to it. But at that time, it was such a devastating thing to
Say more about
realize.
that.
I think that, like, growing up, being young, being at school, having your family around, I just never had the experience of that. That everything's just on me. Everything in my life is just on me. Everything when I was younger was connected with everybody. And I guess I had a lot of support that I took for granted. And then when I was without it for the first time, it was like, oh, I was lucky. Actually, what goes on in life is that you're alone. If you're lucky enough to make a strong connection with someone where you make a team, great. But by default, you are alone. I think in my mind, every experience I had was shared with you or with whoever. Even if it wasn't physically shared, in my mind it was shared.
Yeah, interesting.
I don't know if that makes sense. You know, when you're in love with someone and you have a partner, in your mind, they are always there. It was like that when I was younger. In my mind, all my friends and family were always there. But then when I went to uni, I was alone in my mind.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I'm not sure I ever had the same feeling.
I don't
Like, I
think you
do.
did because you didn't have the same experience. When you went to uni, I was there.
Yeah, it's true. But I mean, like, I feel like I know I'm alone. Maybe I always have, but it doesn't feel so devastating to me. Like, I think I know it's just me in my own mind, and I'm experiencing my life as a singular being. I don't think I ever hit a point where it was like a devastating realization that that was the case. But at the same time, I feel very connected to people and to. Anyway, no, this isn't. It's one for me to ponder actually, because at the same time, when you left was also when I started having a really hard time. And I never really considered whether it was because you left. I thought maybe it just made things harder because you weren't there to support me through the other stuff I was going through. But it's possible that we're like the separation of us as entities did something quite significant to us deep inside.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, like, when I say I was homesick, mostly I was Tanya sick.
Oh, Sasa.
Yeah. I
I
remember
yeah.
you were still at school and you were playing the main part in the school musical, and I couldn't
Val
watch
McKelly in
it.
Chicago, no big deal.
Do you want to give us a rendition of all that jazz?
It's too early for that. Come on, babe, why don't we paint the town? Duh, duh. And all that
And all that
jazz.
jazz. I dropped my mic.
Yeah,
Um,
mic drop.
so you were in the musical and I wasn't able to watch it. And oh, it was so upsetting for me. I remember crying and crying.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. I
that's
remember
sweet.
the exact moment. I was like watching the videos that people had posted on social media and
Yeah.
crying. I had to
Oh.
stop and like go into the corner of my room and cry.
So that's so sad.
So anyway, depression.
Depression.
Yeah, so that time, that first time, I would say I pretty much like within weeks of arriving at university, I was depressed and I didn't know what it was. I'd never experienced it before. Obviously, I'd heard of it. So eventually I realized that that must be what it is, but
Yeah.
it is very difficult to recognize. I'm going to talk more about that later.
Mm.
But I would say that lasted about a year and a half, maybe, that depression. And then the next time I experienced it was when I was unemployed. So I think it is quite a common thing. Like you've got no purpose, you've got no routine, and you lose your confidence, and then eventually, I mean, this doesn't happen to
Yeah.
everyone, but you can slip into a depression. And the next big time I had it, I was in Norway living with my ex. Life was quite hard. And I can't say that anything in particular triggered it, but I think I just knew I was in the wrong life. Like, just things
Sounds
weren't that
familiar.
great. Yeah. So I was depressed again for, I'd say, oh, I don't know, maybe 6 months to a year in Norway.
Oh, I don't know. Oh, I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. Oh, I don't know how long my depression was. Um, Finally, the last big time was when I was here trying to become a secondary school teacher, and I was in a training program, Schools Direct, for anyone in the UK who knows it. And it was totally the wrong move. It was the wrong job for me. I knew it from my first week, but I had committed to it and I believed that I was supposed to do it. And I guess I just had this pressure on myself and I was forcing myself to do it, even though it was making me so unhappy, so stressed, sleep deprived, no social life, being bullied by kids every day. So actually, that time that I was depressed, I also developed anxiety, which I'd never had before. A little bit of anxiety. So I would have really bad, like, heart palpitations randomly when I was at work. And eventually I had to quit because I wasn't doing well in the course anymore. I was like probably staying home more and more often. I don't remember how often, but like almost as often as I was actually going into work, probably.
Mm.
So I was failing. And eventually, actually, maybe this is a nice part of the story. I was struggling so much with the decision because I really believed that I had to do it. For me, it was like, I'm not a quitter. Up until that point in my life, I had never been a quitter,
Yeah.
never quit anything, never
And
done
you're
anything
perfectionist
half-assed.
too.
Yeah. And I felt like such a failure if I quit. And I was talking about it with you and our mom, and she said something so simple like, well, if it's not making you happy, then don't do it. Something like that. And I just felt like I'd been given the permission
Yeah.
that it's okay, you don't have to do this thing, you can be happy instead. And it was so profound to me because it never occurred to me that I would get that permission.
Yeah. There's nothing, you never gave that to yourself in any other occasion.
No, I definitely didn't give it to myself, and I wasn't expecting to get it either.
Yeah.
I thought that I thought that everyone thought that I should do this.
Yeah. Or like
So,
that they would think you were a quitter by quitting. Well, you were a
yeah,
quitter, but who cares? That's the right thing to do. It's okay to be a quitter sometimes.
yeah. And it's also, it's not just quitting, it's like you have to progress your career. That's what I believed. And that was the way to progress my career. So
Like butting
anyway,
heads with the path you're not supposed to be on for longer is just delaying the path you're supposed to be on, which most likely is inevitable, but like why delay?
yeah, I guess so. I don't know how I mean, I think I would have failed anyway, so it's a moot point, but if I
Yeah.
had passed the course, I definitely couldn't have stayed in that
Yeah.
profession.
Can we talk a little bit about, did you have something else you wanted to say about that?
I think I just wanted to say that after I was given that permission and I let that path go, I still had to deal with the depression for a while, but I was much better at dealing with it after that because it was like, okay, the depression is the problem now. And
Yeah.
that's when I first went for cognitive behavioral therapy and went to the doctor and everything. Yeah, so that was a big turning point. And ever since then, like I've had short depressive episodes, but it's never been as bad as that time. I was depressed
Mm,
for about 10 months. Very
yeah.
well, not very compared to some people, luckily. The doctor said I was moderately
Yeah.
depressed.
Depressios, yeah. And did it ever, we don't have to talk about this if you don't want to, but did it ever get to a point for you where you thought about dying?
I so I was lucky that I never had any suicidal thoughts, but I felt that for the first time I could really empathize with people who just want to find a way to end their pain and who can't think of another way.
Yeah.
It's a very sensitive topic. I might stop there. But I
Okay.
felt, yeah, I felt that I could understand that extreme. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about that period of time because that it was really bad for you because that was when we were living together, just you and I in London in that tiny little flat. And I that might have been possibly the peak of my anxiety that period of time. Well, I was pretty anxious for like a few years, but I think that was kind of in ways the peak and in ways like the time in which I really started trying to address my anxiety. But anyway, like I don't remember a lot of that time because of my anxiety. And obviously, I remember you were depressed. I remember not really knowing what to do and also like not really having the focus to figure out what I can do. And I don't really remember what I did to try and help you. I mean, I remember like obviously just like trying to pick up stuff around the house a little bit and talking to you and just like trying to get you to open up, trying to do like meditations with you, things like that. Or maybe like we went out for some walks that maybe I was like, oh, we should go out for a walk. It's just stuff like that. But looking back, I feel like I probably could have done so much more. I'm not sure
Like
I had
what?
the information or the energy at the time, but well, that's the thing. Like what? That's my question, and I wanted to ask you, like, from your perspective, what do you think I could have or should have done to help you? You know, one thing I think this might be so meaningless and so pointless, but if I think back and try to consider what I wish I would have done, I wish I would have just like laid with you in your bed, just like been there, like hugged you, because you did a lot of lying around in your bed on days when you didn't go to work and I'd come home from work and you're just there in your bed in the dark. Like I wish I was just there, like played music, or just like talked to you in bed
Interesting.
and told you like it'll be okay, like it feels crap right now, but I don't know
You
whether that would
know,
have really helped.
something that's so hard about being depressed is you don't want other people to see it.
Yeah.
So I wonder if I would have let you lie in my bed with me in that state.
Yeah.
Or if it would have been like the alternative is I get up. So if she's going to come into bed with me, then I'm getting up. I
Right.
wonder.
Well, what do you think? Is there anything I could have done?
Well, it's mm, it's difficult to say because when I was working, um, it was a slightly different experience of depression for me at that time because maybe I don't know if you would call it like high functioning depression where it's not like I was in bed all the time not being able to do anything. At least for the first several months I was working, and I felt the depression in my mind, but I was kind of just autopilot. But then eventually it took over, and eventually I started to succumb to it. And I'd say at that time, I don't really have a memory of that, so I don't know what you did or what you could have done. But then once I quit the job, I was I was helping myself. So yeah, you sure anyone can help, but really you can't fix it. So
So what are real ways someone can help?
well, maybe we should talk about that at the end.
Oh, okay. Stay tuned for that.
Well, just because that's a good way to end, isn't it? Solutions.
Yeah, I guess so. Nice and structured, eh?
So shall
Shall
I
I talk a
continue? Or you?
shall I talk a
You
bit
want to say
about
something?
my experience?
Okay.
So, I don't think I can say that I've been ever really depressed, but I've had depressive times and probably an experience for a few years that's a little bit more akin to something called dysthymia. I don't know a whole
Haven't
lot
heard of
about
it.
it. I think I've spoken to you about it before, but dysthymia, I don't know a whole lot about this, but it's just based on research I've done over the years. It sounds more aligned to what I experienced, which is like a mild, low level, long term depression. That's what it is in summary, and often it's kind of unnoticeable. You can be pretty high functioning. You can show like more substantial symptoms, like whether that be fatigue, bad sleep, stuff like that. And I think I did have the fatigue. But I think for me, it came about. I was a very happy child. And through most of my teenagehood, I was pretty happy. Even in times where we had some really tough periods, like around 12 years old, we had some tough times, but my baseline emotional state, I think, was good. But then I hit about 17, and it was when you left for university. And like a sequence of things had happened to me that were really tough just before then, I guess, or just very like overwhelming, maybe. And it was like stuff was just catching up to me. And at 17, I suddenly felt like a lack of support from, I guess you were gone. A lot of my friends had gone. I was really stressed at school. There were other pains I was going through, heartaches. And I just like really lost my spirit in a way. Like I just felt so low all the time. But I was very high functioning. But it was just my mood. And like I sort of became a bit, I don't think that's when my anxiety started, but I was just sad, basically. I was sad, I was stressed, I was having a hard time. And then as I went into uni, it evolved into something slightly different where I think also the environment, it was tough, like the culture shock, the darkness, the cold, all that stuff was a bit tough to handle. I felt really like disconnected from myself. And there came a point, I kind of know what the trigger was, but I don't think I want to talk about it right now. But there came a point where I had to like shut something off inside me a little bit to cope. And when I did that, I became really apathetic and I felt numb and like I couldn't feel joy. I couldn't feel excitement. And that went on for years. Like I just couldn't feel happy, really. I can have
How
good
long would you say
experiences.
that lasted?
Well, it's difficult because it happened like in phases. It's a bit difficult to say, but I think if I try and think of the time when I started to be able to feel joy and excitement like in its raw form again, I must have been 24, 25, maybe. And even then I wasn't very happy, but at least I could feel something. And yeah, like I felt pretty fatigued a lot of the time. But other than that, like, I'm not sure there were any very obvious symptoms, except maybe people that were close to me would be able to feel that, like, oh, Tanya seems a bit dead inside. You know what I mean? And that was maybe from the age of about like, yeah, 20, no, maybe like 19. So that was my experience. And it was a real learning. Like I was very aware of it at the time and I had no idea how to get out of it. And I think also because I didn't consider it to truly be a depression, I wasn't trying to address it as a problem that needed to be addressed, you know? I'm not sure I even spoke about it much. Maybe I did a little bit, but like, were you aware? Or to what extent were you aware?
Yeah, well, you did say, like, I think I'm a little bit depressed. You said that like a couple of
Yeah,
times over the years.
yeah. And like sometimes it would get to a point, like most of the time I felt so numb, but sometimes I would just cry and cry. And like I don't know what I'm crying about. I just feel so, I just felt really down. Like
Mm.
just the good chemicals were not firing in the brain. So I don't know what that was. But since then, it's been like an uphill for me. And I'll say right now, and I said this the other day to my friend, I feel happier at my baseline level. I feel happier than I have since like 17. And I doubt that that's uncommon. You know, I think especially like in those years of your life, there's a lot of pressures going on and there's a lot of like emotional things that you're navigating, like whether that's your first love, moving away from home for the first time, having to decide what you're going to do for university. It's like all stuff that can be really destabilizing and can throw you into a bit of a whirlwind if you don't have
World.
world throw you into, yeah, not a good place if you don't then have the tools, especially like if you're going off living on your own. You need those tools to know how to pick yourself back up and take care of yourself and talk about what you're going through. A lot of people go into that phase of life really unprepared for real self-care.
Yeah. And also, we should say that we don't, I mean, I think scientists don't know what it is exactly, but it's believed to be genetic or something physical as well. It's not that everybody who goes through hard times will get bad mental health, but yeah. And on the other side, it's also not just the same as being unhappy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk a bit about symptoms.
Okay.
Okay. So sometimes I will get a kind of like short depressive episode, and I would say it's depressive just because the symptoms are so similar, even though it's like maybe a few days sometimes, just in the winter. And this isn't triggered by heartbreak or feeling alone or something. This is probably just triggered by a lack of vitamin D or whatever it is. I've heard that it could come from the gut or it's affected by the gut. But anyway,
Yeah. Your brain and your gut are very connected, for sure. They
yeah.
talk to each other a lot.
Well, apparently, yeah. So for me, like if I'm thinking about the symptoms of depression, it depends if you're talking about the random, like short bursts of it or the long term ones. So, in my experience and in the experience of most people, I believe, who've had depression, long term depression comes so slowly that you don't realize that it's happening until it's so bad that you can't get out anymore. So, this kind of long term depression usually, at least for me, comes with brain fog. So, it's like that feeling, I suppose, when you're tired or something and you're not really present in the moment that you're in. You're just, it's like your mind is just taking a back seat kind of thing. And so you don't actually register much.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of linked to, like, if you know how we form the strongest memories based on the emotion that came with it. So if our brain is firing all these happy chemicals or whatever it is, that memory will store stronger.
Is that true?
I'm not good at science, but yes, it's true. I don't know
Who
how
says
to
you're not good
explain
at
it.
science?
I don't know how to explain this thing,
Okay, fine.
but I'm pretty sure I've read it and it's true. Like
Okay.
the stronger emotional response you have to something, the stronger the memory will be. So if you're brain is depressed and it's sick and it can't make those chemicals, it just won't store memories. And so the brain fog, that feeling of like I'm not really here, also comes with like a realization at some point where you're like, hold on, I don't really remember anything from the last month.
Yeah.
Like, what have I been doing? So
I
there's
felt that.
that. Mm.
I felt that, and I don't know whether it's because of whatever depressive thing I was going through or if it was the anxiety. But like, I felt like I wasn't encoding information well in my brain. I wasn't connecting with people well.
Mm.
I wasn't remembering names well,
Mm.
like that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then there's also low self esteem that comes, like, and this is very hard to notice
Especially
because,
if you're like generally a little bit of a low self esteem kind of person.
yeah, exactly. Um, like, if you feel low self esteem, I think your first thought isn't to think, oh, I must be sick. Like, that doesn't occur to you. Your self esteem is telling you that it's your self esteem. I mean, your self esteem is telling you that it's you. That's what I mean,
Mm.
right? So, whatever self hating thoughts you're having, they're gonna tell you terrible things about yourself. You're never gonna think, why am I thinking that? You know. And then I think those are the two like main things. The self esteem and negative thinking in general, I think, which is again difficult to be aware of.
Mm. Do you think meditation, in theory, that's the kind of thing meditation really helps with? Like just training your brain to be a lot more aware of the self talk that's going on. So at least you notice that it's happening.
Probably, I don't know. I don't have much practice with meditation.
Can I talk about that one time when you're really depressed and we meditated and it seemed to have a big impact on you?
I don't remember this.
Okay. I remember you being really depressed and I felt so helpless about it. But at the time, I was doing a lot of meditation for my anxiety and found that it was helping me massively. And so we sat together in the living room and did a guided meditation. I don't remember specifically what the guided meditation was about, but it guided us to like try and view ourselves from the outside and like look down on us as a different entity kind of thing.
Okay.
I remember we did that and you just like couldn't stop crying. And you were like, this is the first time in a long time I've looked at myself from the outside.
What did that mean?
I think like
How did I see
noticing,
myself?
well, I think maybe, I don't know whether the tears were coming from like feeling sad for yourself or like
Yeah.
finally having a little moment of relief or something. But I guess because you were just so stuck in the loop for a long time,
Mm.
it was cathartic to whatever degree for you to like
Mm.
actually take a moment and like look upon yourself
Mm.
and witness. You don't remember that?
No.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting, isn't it? Sounds powerful. I have no
Yeah.
memory of it.
You're just crying.
Mm.
I was just hugging you. And then I was like, damn, soz. Sorry. Sorry for making you do this meditation.
Well, I think actually, like when I think of meditation, I don't immediately think of guided meditation. And I think guided
Mm.
meditation can definitely help because it's all about leading you through a different pathway of thinking than
Yeah.
usual. So I think, yeah, that can definitely help. It reminds me of a note that I wrote to myself that I'm going to read for everyone in a bit.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so I was just going to talk about how difficult it is to recognize depression and like admit to depression, especially for people who have had it a long time and they conflate it with their personality. They just think
Mm.
that's their personality. You know, they don't think that they've got an illness. Especially if, so for me, for example, I've always been on the lazy side. I've always been, my self esteem has always been on the low side. And so I think like when depression comes slowly, 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 especially the first time, you're just like, oh, I'm always a shit person, but now I'm a really shit person. That's what it feels like, and that's what the thoughts sound like. It's very difficult, especially for people who are proud and don't want help and that kind of thing. It's really hard to recognize and say, I'm sick. Something's wrong.
This is happening to me. It is not me.
Yeah. Yeah. Like even to realize that yourself is so hard when you're actually like in a self-hating place and a non-thinking place and a non-feeling place. You're not going to be like, something's happening. Wee wee wee.
Yeah. So what do you think in that scenario would make a difference to you to assist with like not getting into that spiral? Is it just like talking about it? Like if people just talked about it with others and people were able to sort of like hold up a mirror and be like, I know you. I don't think this is you. This seems to be something happening to you, or I don't know, like a reality check from a person
Yeah, I
from the
think
outside.
from a trusted person, I think that can be really really helpful. Like usually you do that pretty well.
Me
And
specifically?
I think both of us, yeah, I think both of us, like just from experience, we're able to catch it earlier, recognize the signs, and you'll
You
say
mean
it to
within
me or
ourselves?
I'll already know. No, you'll say it to me.
Okay.
Or I'll already, like on the first or second day of the other kind of depression that I'm going to talk about, I'll be like, "Oh, okay, I know what this is." And then I'm better able to deal with it, even though I'm no expert in dealing with it. Like I don't really know how
Yeah.
to not cure it, but to get out of it. But
Yeah.
at least I know what it is, so I'm not gonna like go into that vicious spiral.
Yeah, and it's not like you're piling on extra shame and extra guilt and self-hatred because at least you're aware of what's happening to you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's not gonna get as bad. So I think yeah, experience and also the fact that I've gone through cognitive behavioral therapy, which really helped. So now I have a bit more of a toolbox if it does happen again or when it does
Yeah.
happen.
So in this second type of depression that I think I know what you're about to say. Well, first explain what you mean by that. I want to ask you about it.
Okay, so this other type of depression is something that I experience. I don't know if everyone experiences it, but it feels different. It's a different experience than the other type that I talked about. So picture yourself, you wake up in the morning. Let's say it's a Saturday morning. And eventually you're going to think, I should get up and brush my teeth. And then your next thought is, okay, I'm going to do that. And then your brain does something and then your body gets up. Would you say this is accurate?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Okay, so this thing that the brain does, that intermediary step, sometimes it just goes missing. So sometimes, especially in winter, randomly, I'll wake up, I'll think, I should get up and brush my teeth. Okay, I'm going to do it. And then nothing happens.
Crickets.
Yeah. It's definitely interesting. And then obviously that leads to you're probably just going to lie in bed pretty much all day. Don't even eat. Don't even like do anything because your brain doesn't do that thing that you need to do for your body to get up. And it obviously can lead down worse roads, the shame and negative self-talk and whatever.
Yeah.
Nowadays for me that part isn't as bad because I kind of recognize it. I'm like, oh, okay, I've been through this before. And I kind of just ride it
Ride it.
until yeah, just like ride the wave.
Yeah, but like you just let yourself experience that and come out the other end.
Kind of. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
I'll talk more about it later, but I kind of just try to be kind to myself about it.
It makes me think of, I've been reading a book called The 5 Second Rule by Mel Robbins. And it's a very simple concept. Like, if you don't want to do something, exactly like get out of bed. And you go, well, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you just have to do it within those 5 seconds. It's a bit oversimplistic, especially if you've got some brain chemistry stuff going on. But I think it might do something psychologically for some people that might help. I mean, a lot of people find it helpful, but psychologically it does, because your brain can hear the countdown and it's like preparing itself to do something by the time 1 happens. So I wonder if that can, for some people, assist with that piece that's missing. Rather than like waiting for the thing to come, it's like, well, what if you just count down and then roll out?
I think that's really helpful in general life, but it wouldn't be helpful on days like that, for me at least. Nothing would happen at 1. It doesn't matter how much I want it.
Right. Just shame would happen at 1.
Yeah, just shame. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Shame.
Oh.
So I was thinking about how to talk about this for the podcast today, and I came up with an analogy. You know, when you use a gas hob, they often work like this. You put your hand on the knob, you push it down, you turn the knob, a spark happens, and then flame. So I thought this is a really good analogy. You tell me what you think. So I care about this thing I need to do. Let's say I care about brushing my teeth. That's putting my hand on the knob. Pushing it down is going, I should do that. Turning the gas on, turning the knob is going, I'm going to do that. And then you can't control the spark, though. The spark just comes from the machine or whatever. The spark is your brain doing that thing, whatever it is, for the flame to be like, okay, now my body's going.
Yeah.
And if that spark doesn't turn on, it doesn't matter how much gas, how much you care, how much you push, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, super frustrating, but that's my experience anyway.
That's a good analogy.
Thanks.
Yeah, interesting. I guess what I wanted to ask you about those days is, well, I guess you've already touched on it a bit, but like, what is your self-talk like now? And is it very different from those times when you've had more significant depressive episodes? And is it because of those significant depressive episodes that you now have the tools to talk to yourself differently?
It's really difficult to put into words because actually I don't think that self-talk is the right word. It's not so much talk. It's not like conscious thought. It's just feeling. I would, if I had to put it into words, I guess like on a day like that, I'd be like, you're so lazy. You're not tending to your responsibilities. You're unhealthy. Things like that. But I don't think that my brain is really saying that, if that makes sense. It's just a general self-disgust.
Oh, so there's no positive self-talk.
Is it more positive than before? I would say it's not so much that I combat it with positive. It's just that it's not as bad as before because it doesn't spiral. It's more just like believing that it's not who I am, it's just today.
Yeah. And it's not the end of the world. It's like, oh, I will actually survive.
Yeah, and this will end. Oh, it's come. That's frustrating, but it'll end.
Yeah. This is risking oversimplifying again. But there's certain like pillars of well-being that everyone needs in their life. I'm not going to go into Maslow's hierarchy of needs, although I could, but the way I see it, it's like if you're getting good sleep, if you're eating well, if you've got connection to people, if you're exercising, and maybe another one is like having a purpose, even if it's something small you're doing, like whether that's a job or you're volunteering or you're like, you got a hobby that you care about, so you have a purpose. if you have those 5 things, I think that's a really, really strong foundation to fend off depression. Like, I reckon, well, maybe there's a question for you. If you think back to all the times you were depressed, do you think that some of those things were always missing at that time?
Well, if we're talking about the long kind of depression, maybe the purpose one, but none of the
Mm.
others. And I think that the this way of thinking is, in a way it's helpful, but in a way it's very unhelpful. I think this is like what people really struggle with depression, is like it's really difficult in yourself to recognize that something's wrong and it's not my life. Something's wrong physically. And then it's even more difficult in general, like not so much nowadays, but in general with people to make other people understand something's wrong with me. I'm not saying I'm unhappy. Stop trying to make me exercise or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Something's wrong with me. And people who haven't experienced it don't understand that. And they're
Mm.
like, oh, you're just, I don't know, you're just not, you either it's on the worst side, you're just being lazy and you're not trying hard enough, or you just need more sleep, you just need to see your friends. And it's not that simple.
Mm.
It's, or it's even simpler, I'm sick. Seeing my
Yeah.
friends isn't going to help me, I'm sick. So yes and no. Like, obviously I think if you're missing any of those pillars, it's going to be worse. And I think if you're missing any of those pillars, it could be a trigger. But I think once depression is triggered, you're sick. You can't just fix it by making sure
Yeah.
that you have what you need.
Yeah. Interesting.
But
Okay.
I
We
don't I
should.
don't want to be hopeless with that. Like, I think that, like, if you manage to kind of force yourself into a really mentally healthy routine, eventually you can work your way out of depression.
I guess it just gives you better chances to get out of it quicker, like fewer slippery slopes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to generalize because I think everyone's
Yeah.
experience is going to be different and everyone's triggers are different as well. So it's difficult
Yeah.
to say that you can fix it this way or that way.
Yeah. Or sometimes it's like, oh, I've just suddenly got a brain chemical imbalance, or it's like I've got really traumatic experiences that I don't know how to work through,
Yeah.
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. I think uh, let's talk about how a healthy way to think about depression, or what helped me at
Mm-hmm.
least. I think if you recognize that you are sick, it changes the whole dynamic of what you're experiencing, in the way that if you are sick, you're going to take care of yourself better. Whereas if you're thinking that you're lazy, you're going to beat yourself up and you're going to just deal with, oh, I'm being lazy, or dealing with, I'm not doing that thing I need to do. Whereas if it's like, I'm sick, how can I make myself feel better?
Yeah. Or what help do I need? It's not just
Yeah.
you beating yourself up on your own.
Yeah. Maybe what medical help do I need? And you're going to be kinder to yourself, which will, if not stop, at least interrupt that vicious negative self talk kind of cycle. And just like you wouldn't give heavy things to someone who's sick or weak to hold, don't give yourself heavy things to carry mentally. So for example, the example we were using earlier, get up and brush my teeth, is such a tiny thing for a healthy person. But for a depressed person, that task is very heavy. So instead of get up and brush my teeth, give yourself a lighter task, like sit up. Even maybe not sit up, maybe get up on my elbows, half sit up. Like, just as you would with a weak person, give them smaller things to hold, and that's okay. And then the other thing is, like, things can feel really heavy. So I remember when I was depressed, like the worst time, it, it I couldn't handle hearing the news.
Yeah.
I just like emotionally and mentally, I couldn't handle it. Like I had to escape if someone was talking about the news or something, because it was too, I already felt like too hopeless,
Yeah.
and I just couldn't go there. So then, if that's the case, then like that's okay. You don't have
Yeah.
to handle the things that you could handle when you're healthier. You don't have to handle the things that other healthy people can handle. Protect yourself. That's okay. While you're sick, you can protect yourself. It's not just news, like anything, whatever it is. Maybe it's a relationship you have in your life that's kind of like making you criticize yourself more or something like that. Protect yourself from that. That's okay. And then,
That's a really good, that's an interesting one, because I think it's possible for a lot of people, there's someone in their life that actually brings them down or is a bit overly self critical, but it's often someone that probably is trying to care for you
hmm,
through your depression. Like if it's your family,
hmm,
people sometimes have difficult relationships with their family, but their family are going to want to help. How might one go about trying to create that distance from someone that's trying to help you?
I think if someone is there to help you, you should hold on to that. I don't think you should create distance with them. But then, if they're doing something that's actually making you worse, you need to address that. Even if it's something silly, like, I don't know, when you use the word sad, it actually makes me feel worse when you call me sad. And you might be thinking, that's so silly. I can't ask them not to say the word sad. But if that's making you sicker, then do it. Ask them
Yeah.
not to use the word sad. Like, it doesn't matter how small that thing is. The small things really matter when you're depressed. You can't even handle big things, so small things are all you can handle.
Yeah.
So on a more positive note, like keeping things light, like I had a note that I made about, well, I made several notes. I tried to get into the habit when I was depressed of writing like little gratitudes. So three things I was grateful for every day.
Did we do
And
that together?
we
Because
might
I
have,
did that
yeah.
at the same time for my
We might have.
anxiety.
Yeah. So
Nice.
it's something that when you're in a healthy place, I don't know, it depends on your personality, but it can seem so like pointless, silly. Well, write down three things I'm grateful for every day. But then if you give yourself that small thing, which is something nice, it makes such a difference. I don't know if I'm really making sense, but
No, it makes total sense.
well, I'm not gonna read them, but yeah. So I wrote every day. Today I feel na 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 na, and today I fed my mind something or whatever I did. Today I fed my body something, whatever I did. Today I fed my soul something. So, for example, body. Today I fed my body a shower. See, something as small as that is something to be grateful for, because people who are depressed might not take a shower. It doesn't matter that it's small. It's still a victory.
You're still grateful for it, yeah.
Yeah. And if you accept those, it will really help your thought. Not be like, oh my God, all I did today was shower. I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah.
You know?
I remember often my gratitude lists would consist of things like running water. Like, oh, I'm glad my legs work. And it sounds silly, right? But I truly am grateful for those things, like truly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because of doing that in that phase of time, I'm a lot quicker to notice the things I'm grateful for now, later in life.
Oh, interesting.
Like I do often think as I turn on the tap, I'm like, hell yeah, running water. Like that thought goes through my head.
I often
Or like I'm
remember to
looking
be
out at a
grateful.
view. I'm looking at a view. I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I don't need glasses. Like my eyes work. How great.
I often remember to be grateful that my nose isn't runny.
Or you're not on your period.
Yeah, yeah.
That sounds like, oh, thank God I'm not on my period today. No cramps, no headache.
Okay, so I think yeah, just being kind to yourself like you would to a sick person, basically. Like you're not a shit person just because of whatever happened today. You're sick. That's all. And then give yourself a
Yeah.
little it's okay. You know? Not
Sasha just
physically,
stroked
but in
her
your
own head.
mind. Yes, I stroked my head.
Yeah. And what do you think you would want to hear from loved ones at times when you're depressed?
I think in a way that's difficult to answer because I didn't really hear things from loved ones that I didn't want to hear. I think, well, you and our mom were there at the worst times. My ex was also there for some of my depressive episodes. And all of you were supportive and understanding. You never made me feel like it wasn't real. If anything, you all validated that it was real, that it wasn't me, that I was sick.
Mm.
I'm getting emotional.
It's okay. It's an emotional topic.
This is just going back to what we were saying earlier about how difficult it is to admit or recognize that it's not you. And it's such a relief to hear that maybe those horrible things that you feel about yourself, maybe they aren't true, and that maybe you're dealing with something else. So yeah, I think like the thought just occurred to me. That's why like it's so, the most important step is just to say I have depression, as it is with a lot of things like addiction or whatever. So I think that you guys really helped. And like also the way that you guys helped was to help me with little routine things like you said, let's go for a walk. How about you take a shower right now and then I'll take a shower after you? Just small things like that. I don't know if there's any like advice I can give to someone whose loved one is depressed.
Maybe a place to start is to ask them, like, what can I do for you right now? Or what do you need? And it might be difficult for them to answer, but it might be better than you assuming you know what they need
Yeah,
if you really don't.
I think that's a nice place to come from. However, be prepared that a depressed person will often say, "I'm fine, leave me alone."
Yeah.
So maybe you can ask them, but then maybe if they do respond like that, don't listen to them and do something anyway.
Yeah. Okay. That's good advice. Or you could talk to someone else who you know has experienced depression, ask them what could help.
Isn't that what's happening right now?
Exactly. You're welcome.
Yeah, well, walks helped.
Yeah. Even if it was down a busy street in London in the middle of winter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be honest, like in in my state, I could have been anywhere. I didn't care. At least I was looking at something and not in bed hating myself, just looking
Yeah.
and moving.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Okay.
think that's all I had to say, but I did have like some like things that I wrote when I was depressed. Would that be interesting?
If you think they're interesting, I don't know what you've written.
Okay, well, maybe I'll just the highlights. So this is from 10th of June 2019, 1:25 a.m. I wrote it at the top. I wrote can't sleep, mind going a million miles a min, I've been depressed so long. I don't want to live like this, and I don't have to. It takes work, as it does for everyone, to be happy. It might take you more, but you must anyway. And then I wrote a huge list of things that I wanted to do to make myself happy, like the dreams that I wanted to accomplish and just everyday things that I wanted to do. And then I was obviously a little bit manic in this moment because look what I wrote on the margin. I wrote, I love me, I love me, I love me, I love me, like 50 times. I think it wasn't, when I say manic, I don't mean that I was actually in a place of like self aggrandization. Is that the right word? I was
Don't know.
I was trying to love me.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
convincing myself. And then there was one note that you and I wrote together. You wrote anxiety is trying to teach me, and I wrote depression is trying to teach me.
Yeah.
And that was a nice reframing exercise. So basically it was like a list of what depression is teaching me. So for example,
Yeah.
depression is trying to teach me what I need to be happy, or to know when to make a change, to know myself and my boundaries better. So it was a nice reframing because yeah, again, it's like separating the depression from myself and just seeing it
Yeah.
for what it was.
Or like imagining the ending point and like what are you gonna gain from it, from the experience when that end does come.
Yeah, yeah, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, seeing it
Yeah.
as a lesson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Was that
that's
all you
all
wanted to share?
that's the interesting parts. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. I know it's an intense topic, but I hope that this will have given some people a little bit of value or comfort if you've
I hope
experienced the
so.
same or have loved ones experiencing the same. Yeah.
I would really love to know if anyone took anything from this because
Yeah.
I mean it's like an issue that's really close to my heart. So
Yeah.
I always, I actually, it sounds like the opposite of what you'd think, but I love to talk about this.
Yeah.
And I love to hear other people's experience about it.
Yeah, please share if you're comfortable to. Share in the comments or whatever. I've been getting quite a lot of DMs actually about the podcast, which is lovely. But I would also love if you added comments so that other people can read it and engage with you and connect with you and your experience. And also, just know if you are going through something tough like this, you're not alone and you're not supposed to go through it alone. And there's plenty of help out there. You just have
Yeah.
to know where to find it and reach out.
Yeah. And it's not you.
It's not who you are. Yeah, it is something that's happening to you and you deserve to have help from the relevant resources. Okay. Shall we end there?
Yeah, I guess so. Oh,
All
shall
right.
we do one positive, one moment of joy from our recent
Sure.
lives
Sure, you go first.
to counteract the depression talk? Okay, yesterday I passed a flower patch on my way home that I always pass, and it's really nice. It's got loads of lavender. And yesterday I noticed that it was full of bees. Like every single plant had at least two bees buzzing around it, and I counted 27 bees.
That must have been hard to count.
No,
Is it buzzing around? Oh.
there were so many. Oh, well, they
Oh,
were like, it's quite a big flower patch. It wasn't like they were in a swarm. And that brought me joy
that's nice.
bees are good.
Bees are good. Yeah. That's nice. My recent joyous moment was also yesterday actually. I'm with a friend at the moment. They're visiting and we were at the beach and I love the beach. It's like my favorite place. And we were just lying there in the sun, and we were both listening to. I was showing her an old school Shakira album, the one called Laundry Service, which I love. And we're just listening to it and watching the ocean, feeling the breeze. And I've had like a really good couple weeks, I'd say, like really cheerful, happy, fun couple weeks. And I just had a real moment of like, oh, this is my life. I'm so happy. Like, I'm just
Aw.
so happy and I feel very present. Yeah, that's mine.
That's nice.
All right, fellow internet friends, thank you for listening. Give us a like, comment, subscribe, all that, whatever business.
Yeah, if you like bees or Shakira or you're depressed, give us a like.
Yeah.
But don't tell us which one.
Yeah, I don't want to know. Okay, thanks everyone.
Bye.
Until next time. Bye.
Bye. If you're struggling with your mental health and you don't know where to turn, try the NHS website for mental health services. Or if that's not local to you, Google whatever's local to you. It's super easy. Even a depressed person can do it. It's literally just picking up your phone and looking at a website. And I swear it'll help. As the NHS website says, your mental health is as important as your physical health, and you won't be wasting anyone's time by using these resources. Just give it a try.